Hello everybody, this is Jose Blasco here. We're about to start in less than 30 seconds. This is a sound check. Please go ahead and type a quick hello in the chat box just to know that you hear me and sound is good, and that way we're ready to go. We're about to start here, guys, okay? Thank you so much for that confirmation. Very good. Perfect. Okay, so we just reached the top of the hour. It's time to begin. It's 11 a.m. In New York, so it's time to get started. And therefore, I welcome you to the session. Today it's May 24, 2020. We are getting together for sharpening purposes. So today it's one of the sessions that we do over the weekend, taking advantage that the market is closed. And therefore, we like to take advantage of the fact that, we don't need to be in a rush or anything like that. And we can go over questions and everything else. How are you, by the way? I forgot to turn on the video stream. So again, today is a sharpening day, and therefore be ready to interact, be ready to type questions. How are you, Paul? Anything out there that is a worry, a question, any need for improvement that you may have on your actions in the marketplace, or the use of the technology, or following the sessions that we do, anything really, go ahead and be ready to type in the chat box, and I'll be more than happy to look into your questions and spend as much time as needed to go over it and clarify everything. Okay. I do have a question I would like to start the day with, since you guys normally send questions during the weeks. Each week you will send questions with via emails. And normally, most of the cases, we just send you quick answers, which are good enough, I guess, for the question. But when the questions are more complex, if you wish, or more elaborated, then an email is not good enough to really answer. And that's when, I love to bring those emails into the session on the weekends and the sharpening days, and go over the answers all together, where now I can use charts, I can elaborate, I can look at different examples and give you like a proper answer. Okay. How are you, Roy? Good to see you. Very good. So we're gonna get started. I have the disclaimer to read, so I'll do this quickly, and that way we go. So disclaimers: the following videos, clips, demonstrations are for educational and instructional purposes only. Tradictive provides these videos purely for the purpose of demonstrating a method of using the product. Users understand that all the content used in the video is purely for demonstration purposes only, and is not a guide and does not provide any indication or prediction of actual results. As a user, you understand and agree that hypothetical results obtained through a demonstration do not indicate in any way the results you may receive when using our products. And that's a disclaimer. So now I can say now that the session is officially introduced, the session is on, and therefore we are now ready to begin. Charles, how are you? Good to see you. Hola. Julius, how are you? Good to see you as well. Wonderful, guys. So anyway, quick look at the calendar. Today it's 24 of May, Sunday. We are here sharpening our skills, isn't it? But the reason why I'm here in the calendar today is because I want to point at a special session that we'll do next Tuesday. Next Tuesday, notice we have two sessions, okay? One will be at 11 in the morning, New York time. As always, we're going to do our short-term trading at that time. But then the same day, evening hours, New York time, 7 p.m. New York time, we have a special session which is called the do's and the don'ts and trading. Okay, that one requires registration, and we will not do it on the YouTube channel. It's free attendance, it's for everybody, but you will need to click on it, and then here you have a link for you to register. So we just click on that event registration link. And when you get there, you can now click on the blue button, register now. Okay. And I'm pointing at this session. It's quite important because, often, including during the sharpening days, we simply focus on charts, if you wish, or problems or needs that come from charts. Where this particular session, the do's and the don'ts on trading, is kind of like taking a step back, and it's a healthy exercise, if you wish, to, no matter which trading methodology you employ, no matter what is your trading style, no matter how much experience you have, no matter how large your account is, then it's a healthy experience to go back in time and look at what are the do's and the don'ts in trading, that either get you in trouble or get you in the right path. Okay, and I think it's a healthy exercise, even for the ones of you that are experienced. I think it's still a healthy exercise to go over this. Okay, so it's gonna be, let's call it a basic presentation if you wish, but within being basic, really sometimes being advanced means that you master the basics, right? So I'm very my belief system is very much into that, master the basics in a way where now you're advanced. Why? Because you master the basics. So it's kind of that. Okay, so anyway, just wanted to point at it as we begin the session. Okay, so hopefully I will see you there, and if not, still go ahead and register, because then the session will be recorded, and you can still go ahead and benefit from it. Okay, but anyway, so here is TriStation, and again, the first question for today, it's an email I got from Ahmed. I am not sure if Ahmed is with us today. Ahmed, would you mind to confirm with a quick message on the chat box if you are with us or not? Obviously, it would be great if you are around, so we can be a bit more interactive on answering your question. But if not, it's still okay. I will take care of your question, and then when you watch the recording, you'll get your answer. But again, I'd like to know if you are around. So I'm just gonna wait a few more seconds. Ahmed, are you with us today? It would be good to hear. And everyone else, by the way, also get your questions ready, okay? And type them on the chat box, because really it seems that it's either we're doing a good job with the mentoring sessions that we're doing, and with the user guides that we have put together for the UFOs and flow charts or whatever it is. But in the past 2 weeks, the questions that we have received were questions easy to answer. So we've answered almost everything via emails. And therefore, for today, when it comes to more complex type of questions, I go one. So any question you may have, basic or complex, be ready to phrase it, because if that was not the case, today's session would be quite short, because I only have one question, even though it will take a little bit of time because it's a complex one. Okay, it's a very good question actually. Okay, so it seems that Ahmed is not with us today. Okay, so I will then go ahead and read the question for you. Okay, I will read the question for you. So the question says, "Hi Jose. So how are you doing? Hope all is well with your family," which is very kind, and same to you, Ahmed. So I have a question about Delta. Okay, that's what he said. And he said, I learned from you that when we buy options, we look at strike prices with a delta around 30 at the entry zone. Okay. And again, for everybody to be in the same page, since again, I am not sure if everybody here trades options or not. Maybe it would be nice if you type in the chat box, if you type options, so I get a little bit of a measurement of how many of you trade options or are learning options or practicing options on a paper money account. Okay, but go ahead and type it. That would be useful for me. But basically, the idea is that let me look at a market. Maybe it's going to be easier to understand if we look at markets that are moving up. So for example, Apple, here we go. So Apple, for example, here around this price level 307. Okay, and again, Apple is not a good candidate with only 42%. Let's move into pre-post market. Maybe now we got close to 50. Okay, so let's say we got 50. So if Apple was to drop and drop and drop and drop and drop and come to this green UFO, so initially you will want to buy, expecting Apple to continue going higher. Okay, I mean, this trade certainly does not meet our rules at all, because when you look at the climate, it's 22/9, so this is way too extended. So this is really a trade that you would not want to take. Okay, but let me see if I can find something a bit more aligned with the rules. So let's see, McDonald's, just to be a bit more precise with my answer. So yeah, so I would say let's pretend this one is going to be good. Okay, so we got 52% is the probability that we find here. Okay, so that's above 50. That's good. That's good. Then if we look at the climate, we are dealing with 4 out of 7. So certainly you're entering a market which is in an up climate already, but that climate is likely going to last another 3 days at least. Okay, normally climates will expand by a certain amount, and statistics suggest that for up markets it's 6.22. We round it up to 7. Okay, for the ones of you new in the session. So today is number 4, and therefore if you were to take a trade today, it's certainly a good idea based on the rules, and your reference price would be 181. So somewhere around 181, you will want to buy this UFO. Okay, the top of this UFO is 180.94. Let's call it 181. So basically, what you will want to do is wait for McDonald's to drop a bit, come to this UFO, then you will want to enter an options trade, and then you would expect it to go higher, and somewhere higher you would have to take profits, which I will not discuss this because this is not the question. Okay, I just wanted to talk about the entry because in Ahmed question he says, okay, he says that uh, I learned from you that when we buy options, we will look for a strike price which gives a delta of around 30, okay, at the entry zone. Okay, so at the entry, you want delta to be 30. Okay, and the entry is, that's why I wanted to point at this, the green UFO, which is 181. Okay, we're gonna round it up just to make it simple for the example, for this exercise. We're gonna run it up to 181. Why is that important? Because the current price of McDonald's is not 181. The current price of McDonald's is 184.41. Okay, so if I was to load an option chain for McDonald's, okay, and I was to pick, I'm just gonna pick 54 days, for example, okay, and then I'll come back to time because this is the second part of the question from Ahmed. So I'll come back to that in a minute. But let's say you were to buy the 180 call. Okay, if you were to buy the 180 call now at the current price, which is 184.65 in this case with the pre-market data, so the delta of that one is 61.61. The rule that I have set for the group is shoot for deltas around 30. So now if you look at the option chain, it says 61. So initially you would say, hey, that one doesn't work. Okay, and that's not the case. Maybe it does. We don't know. We have to simulate. I mean, you can, if you have experience, you could estimate, and probably you will not. Okay, but let's pretend that we have no experience. For you to know for sure if it's gonna work or not, you have to simulate. Because notice what's gonna happen. If I get into the analysis tab, I enter myself at 181. Okay, so I want to calculate what's going to happen to the options at what 181. Okay, and notice that now my simulations is empty. I got nothing to simulate, right? So let's enter something to simulate. Let's pretend I want to buy the 180. So I'm going to put my mouse on top of 180, right click to analyze and buy a single option, which is a call, because you may have seen calls are on the left, puts are on the right. Again, for you options traders, this is absolutely obvious. But for the ones of you not trading options, I want to make sure you follow me. Okay, so analyze and buy a single call. Okay, and the single call now got a delta of 61, as we saw earlier. And again, now means at 184.65. Okay, but notice that when we reach 181, which is lower, then the delta would be less, and the delta would become 54. Instead of 61, it would drop to 64. Why? Because we know options gain participation as the market moves our way. A call is a positive unit. Okay, it's a unit that gains delta as the markets go up. So going from 181 to 184 increases the delta from 54 to 61, and vice versa. Having the market fall from 184 to 181 would make the delta to fall from 61 to 54. Okay, so the question, one part of the question of Ahmed is, Jose, you have given us a rule, which is we want delta of 0.30 at entry. Okay, so I want to make sure that everybody now understand what I meant by at entry. Okay. Oh, and Ahmed, I see you are here. Wonderful to see you, my friend. I guess you just arrived. I'm just beginning looking at your question and beginning with the answer. Okay. So wonderful that you are around, so we can work better on this together. Let me read the comments here. I got Roy, not yet Jose, looking to go over all your webinars as my stage in trading. Wonderful, wonderful. Paul, I was I am trading short-term FX at the moment and will move to options later in my trading journey. Very good, very good. How are you, Gary? Good to see you as well. Good. So, guys, if you don't trade options, it's fine. Just listen carefully, okay? I have a very a trader friend who is also a colleague and also an instructor, which I respect a lot, and I love his humor and his approach to trading and teaching. That always says that there are many things in life that you learn through osmosis. Okay, which means that you just keep watching. Okay, and somehow next thing you know, it's embedded in you. Okay, so for the ones of you not trading options, okay, listen carefully because those are very important questions to be well understood. Remember, there is a key thing in trading. I always talk about the C word, isn't it? And it would make me so happy if you guys were to type on the chat box what is the C word, okay? And it would make me even happier if you actually guess right what do I mean when I say the C word. So let's try. Let's see what you think I mean when I say the C word, right? So again, um, options is something more complex to trade, but it is true that options give you options, and therefore it's really really worth it for the ones of you therefore that are now focusing on forex or futures or stocks or any other assets, CFDs, whatever. Just keep doing what you're doing, but keep listening as well because you run through osmosis, okay? And next thing you know, you're gonna know more about it, okay? Very good, absolutely, Paul, you got it. Boyan, very nice, good to see you, Boyan. Good to see you, Lilan. It's confidence. Very good. Very good. Yeah, well, copy, Leland, you get a point. Okay. We learn through basically mimicking or replicating, like, you are a child and you start learning how to talk. You basically try to copy the sounds of your parents, right? So kind of, mimicking others is part of the learning, but without understanding why, that would never bring confidence, right? You would just mimic, but you would never have the confidence, especially when we are adult. The why is necessary. So when you're a kid, you just mimic and that's it, and you're proud, or you are happy to make your parents happy, hopefully, and that's it. But when we are adult, you need to understand why. This is key for you to build up your confidence and click the button, with decision when it's time to click, right? Change is also a good one, Basa, certainly. But again, I was thinking confidence. Okay, that's the one I always mention when I mean the C word. Okay. So anyway, back to what we're doing here. So Ahmed said, um, so I learned from you that we buy options and we look for strike prices, which gives us a delta of 30 at the entry price. In other words, if we were to do this trade with McDonald's, buying that call, which is the 180, that gives us a delta of 54 at entry, which is 181, then that call, the 180 call, would not provide the delta required. And therefore, it would basically, taking this trade, would basically break the rules I am suggesting in the room. Now, options give you options, and there are many ways on how to approach this. Okay, but first I want to adjust it, okay, to get the delta 30. So if I move it up to 185, it becomes 43. If I move it up to 190, it becomes 33. If I move it up to 195, it becomes 22. So it seems that the nearest one to 30 is the 190, and therefore buying the 190 call would be the right choice for this trade. Okay. So this is how you would adjust it, and we do this often on the Thursday sessions when we do get together long term, okay, longer term, and we do options trading. So we do that often, okay. But my question is, so why 30? Okay, why is it 30? Because then the remaining part of his question, he talks about other instructors, okay, that look for strike prices that give deltas of greater than 80, and also they look for expiration dates of greater than 90. Okay, so in the sessions here, okay, let's kind of compare different schools of thought. Okay, and let me kind of conclude what's going to happen here, which is everything in life got pros and cons. Okay, and I'm a little bit of a perfectionist, so I try to stack odds in my favor. Okay, so you will see why. But again, everything got pros and cons. Okay, so let's understand. Okay, talking about the why and building confidence, let's understand why different traders do things differently and what are the impacts. Okay, and therefore you will understand why I suggest to shoot for that delta being 30. Okay, so first of all, let's talk about the strike. Okay, because the strike, changing the strike. Okay, so changing strike changes changes delta. Okay, so uh, I suggest to change the strike to get a delta of 30, where in Ahmed's question, he's talking about other traders that are shooting for deltas of 80. Okay, so how would that be if instead of 30, we shoot for 80? Okay, so I'm gonna uncheck the 190 call, which is the one providing 30, and I'm gonna look for another one. Let's say we do the 170. Let's say we do the 165. Oh, I just went too far. 170, 170, 165. Here we go. So if I do the 165, now I got delta of 80. Okay, so I got delta of 80 if I buy the 165 call, and I get delta of 30 if I buy the 190 call. Okay, so first observation. Okay, and there is much more to discuss here, but first observation. If I buy the 165 call, which is the one I have check mark, the cost of the trade, the estimated cost of the trade is around $2,000. This would be the estimated cost for the trade, around 2,000. What happens if instead of buying that call, I buy the 190 call? Well, then the cost for the trade is around $374, $375, let's call it $400. Okay, so $400 of risk versus close to $2,000 of risk. So now, probably, if you learn somewhere to buy the 165 call with a greater delta, probably you are also being told that even though it's going to cost you 2,000, you are not risking 2,000 because you are going to use stops. Okay, and certainly, I'm not going to say it's a wrong choice. I'm just talking about the pros and the cons. So what are the pros and the cons of using stops? Where the pros and the cons of using stops is that if the market comes here, and remember, stocks are fragile. Okay, maybe the S&P has not reached its own green UFOs yet. So what may happen to McDonald's? Maybe a tiny little bounce like this, and then it keeps going. And then it comes to the next UFO, and now the broad market, the S&P, the sectors, other food companies get into their own UFOs, and now this thing starts going your way. So what happened if you bought the 165 call, okay, the 165 call with a stop? Okay, so what would happen? Well, what would happen is that at this moment in time, the stop took you out and you took a loss. Okay, how much the loss would be? Well, let's say 179 is your stopping point, out of, creating a little bit of an estimation here. So let's say 179 is your stopping point. So what happened? Well, you paid 375, you got stopped out, you had to sell it at 312. Okay, let's call it, let's round a little bit all of this, because here's the other thing about stops. Okay, you're gonna get slippage for sure, especially if you get stopped out right at the open. And by the way, you may get stopped out on a gap, which would create more pain, right? So let's say you're gonna lose $75 on this trade, just to round it up. So even though the cost of the trade, sorry guys, I am using the wrong one. Let me redo this. Okay, I was thinking, wow, that's very little. Now I got it. So I clicked on the 165 now. Now I'm using the right one. Sorry for that. So again, let's go back to look at the values. Okay, so one is close to 2,000 as we saw earlier. Okay, the other one is, let's call it 1,700. So 1,700 to 1,850. Okay, it's like $150. If you add slippage and so on, so 150 may become, I don't know, let's call it $175. Okay, so your risk on this trade is $175, even though the cost of the trade is close to 2,000. It doesn't mean, if you use stops, it doesn't mean you are risking 2,000. Okay, but if you get stopped out, you will be losing 175. So going back to the chart, if you are this guy, okay, if you are the guy who bought the 165 call, okay, you needed $2,000 to take the trade. Okay, not a big deal, but your risk is 175. Okay, where if you are the other guy, and you bought the 190 call, okay, you don't need 2000, you need 400. Okay, you need 400. But now, because the trade is so much cheaper, which is 400, okay, you could afford to not to use stops. If you decide to not to use stops, what is your risk? 400, which is more than 175. Okay, but what's the beauty? If the stock comes to this UFO, does the thing I said before, goes through in the end, then goes to the next one, and finally goes to the final target, or even if you exit the trade somewhere in between. So what's the difference? Well, the trader with the 190 call made a profit, where the trader with the 165 call ended up in a losing position, even though in the end, he or she was right on direction and the stock ended up going higher, just not starting at 181. It started at 174, okay, which is way much lower. So this is one of the pros and one of the cons. Now, there is a reason why the 165 call is more expensive. It also pays you faster, okay? Because if you are this guy, okay, and even if the stock starts moving your way directly from here, okay, congratulations, you are making money from the very beginning. But the rate at which you make money is 30 deltas at the beginning, 30, 40, 50, 60 deltas, where the other guy starts at 80, doesn't start at 30, starts at 80. So the other guy is making money faster. That's why the trade is more expensive, okay? But what's the problem? So let's take a look at, let me switch from theoretical values to delta, okay? Let me switch. So notice what's happening to the guy who purchased the 165 call, okay? If you purchase the 165 call, okay, so what's happening here? Well, as the stock moves up, goes from 181 to 183 to 185 to 186 to 189. Let's say your target is 195, okay? So what happened to the delta? The delta moved, okay, from here to here. Sorry for the terrible drawing. In other words, your delta became 90. So your delta started as 80 and your delta went up to 90, okay? So great. You were making money at a rate of 80. You had an increase up to 90. So nice. I'm not going to say it's a wrong choice. Certainly, using options that are in the money with a great quantity of delta, it's not going to be a problem. Okay, but look at the guy. Okay, look at the guy who starts the trade with a 190 call. Okay, so what happens? Okay, so let's say your target is 195, same as before. So 195 is right there. Okay, 181 is right here. Okay, so what happened to delta? Delta has increased. Delta started being 30, but when you got to your target, what happened to your delta? Delta basically doubled. So in other words, starting the trade with a lower delta value puts you in a position where you can get a greater benefit, okay, when it comes to the increase of speed of profitability. I mean, you start with a speed of profitability which is less, and you end up with a speed of profitability which is also less, which is 60. You went from 30 to 60. So at all times, the speed at which the trade paid you is less. But from an efficiency point of view, both from the cost and the risk, because now you can trade with no stops, and from the efficiency point of view of the increase of delta, I guess you are with me that you have a much greater benefit. And the reason is because the maximum delta can be is 100. So if you start with a delta of 80, the most it could become is 100. So you got maximum increase of 20. It cannot be more than that. Okay. And especially if you use a longer term expiration date, that's going to be even worse. Because delta is going to be less the further away you are from expiration. So we look at the expiration in a minute too, because it's the other part of your question, Ahmed. Okay, so notice how approaching it from this point of view, the trade is more efficient. Okay. Now there is more to this. Okay, there is more to this, which is the fact that one of the concepts, and let me show you this on the YouTube channel here, guys. So if I move into YouTube, oh, not that one, I didn't type it correctly. Let me type this well. Here we go. So if I get into the YouTube channel and I get into the sharpening playlist, right? And I look at, let me see, credit, sharpening, psychology, uh, damage control. So if I look at damage control, I look at gamma hedge, long-term investing 1 and 2, hedge portfolios, all of those sessions here, they suggest that when you trade stocks, given the fragile nature of the stocks, okay, because they depend on what's going on in the economy, they depend on what's happening to the market, they depend on what's happening to the sector. So we talked about that millions of times. They only trade 6.5 hours a day. Well, overnight, many UFOs are formed in the S&P futures, but you don't see them on the stock chart. Again, long story short, they are fragile. So what is the suggestion that you receive in those sessions? Well, what you learn in those sessions is that a very healthy approach to trading is to put together positive gamma positions, okay? Basically buying options, okay? Which, by the way, 80 delta options are positive gamma, 30 delta options are positive gamma, okay? So when you buy options, you are positive gamma, no matter how much delta you get. But basically, the beauty of that is that you always have positions that are positive delta, you always have positions that are negative delta, all of them with positive gamma. And then if a market goes against you, okay, if a market goes against you, like I said earlier, so let's say, for example, um, you know, McDonald's comes here, bounces a little, finally goes to the next UFO. You are now expecting it's going to bounce, but let's say the world is crazy and it keeps going and going and going. Well, you bought an option that cost you $400, and guess what? You're gonna lose $400. I'm just noticing that McDonald's just fell on my head. So now that's a bad news. You just lost $400. But what's the beauty? Because you run a diversified portfolio with other positions that are negative delta at the same time, while you are losing $400 on this trade, the other stocks that you are short are making money for you. And because you got positive gamma on everything, McDonald's is losing money at a decelerated pace. And because you started with 30 delta, it's going to get close to 0 delta very quickly. So you stop the pain quite quickly. Okay? The speed of stopping pain is quite fast. While the other positions are gaining gamma with a lot of room for gaining gamma, because from 30 to 100 you got a lot of delta to gain. I just said gamma, I meant delta. Okay. So you get my point, right? So now you gain an advantage from the delta hedge. But not only that, let's say you want to hedge positions and run multiple trades in parallel using the same concept, but instead of using the 30 delta positions, you want to use the 80 delta positions, okay? And you stops, because of course you don't want to risk $2,000 per trade. So you want to risk 175 using the stop below the UFO, right? So what happens? What may happen is the opposite, right? Which is, hey, it comes here, okay? It stops you out, okay? Next thing you know, the market comes here. So you are happy because you got other short positions that are making money for you. So in your mind, hey, I'm fine, I'm making money. But next thing you know, now this trade works very well. And next thing you know, your short positions you are still on are now losing money for you. And this long position that could make a lot of money for you is not making money for you. Why? Because you got stopped out. Is that making sense? So you are giving yourself a way larger breathing space, which is, in my mind, quite needed in a weak market such as the S&P, such as the stock market. Which, again, it sounds funny if I say it's a weak market. It's the largest equity market in the world. It's amazing. When I say weak, I don't mean weak as a bad thing. I just said, those UFOs. I mean, and you can just measure that, right? So you look at those UFOs on McDonald's, 52%. If you pick any market which is 24 hours, okay, like for example the S&P futures, so notice that 52% becomes 1, 2, 3. Come on, oh, I'm not sure why it's taking so long to load the S&P. Here we go, 62%. Okay, I'm still pending data. Okay, so 58. Okay, so which is more than 52, right? If you look at crude oil, okay, which is also a 24-hour market, right? So we look at crude oil, what happened? 60%. okay, pending data. So we're going to have the whole set of data in a sec. Okay, so let's see how much it's going to be. Come on, crude oil, give it to us. But bottom line, it will always, or almost always, 58%, almost always be more than stocks. Okay, why? Because stocks are fragile. Okay, if you look at currencies, you look at the euro USD, okay, 59%. So again, back to McDonald's. That's one portion of the answer to your question, Ahmed. Okay, so let me take a look at your comments first before I keep going, because there is a lot more, to be honest. So Paul, if you have time, Jose, can you go over too far, too fast trade management rule, please? Absolutely. Okay, I'll finish this question with the options and then I will do that. More risk with a higher delta. I'm just reading. How about during spreads? Do you still buy out of the money? Yeah, same story. You want the spread to be 30 delta instead of you want the option you buy to be 30 delta, you want the whole spread to be 30 delta. We do this very often, Basha, on the Thursdays, very, very often. The probability of succeed, it's higher with the lower delta, funnily enough, because if you were to ask Mr. Black and Mr. Scholz, which are the creators of probably one of the most commonly used options pricing model, they actually define delta as a probability of having an option expire in the money at expiration, which would make you think that the deeper in the money, the more likely you will make money. And that's not what Mr. Black and Mr. Scholz said. What they said is that if you buy a very deep in the money option today, it is likely to remain in the money. Okay. But in other words, if the option is here and the stock is up there, okay, the option is in the money. Okay. Why is it likely to remain in the money from now until expiration? Not because the stock has greater odds of going up, because the reason why it's likely to remain in the money being so low is because even if the stock was to fall, the stock has to fall a lot to go below the option strike and make that option to be out of the money. So the probability of expiring in the money at expiration has nothing to do with the probability of profitability when you buy options. When you sell options, then yes, it does have to do with probability of profitability, but when you buy options, absolutely not. And this is often very, very completely misunderstood. Okay, so I want to make sure all of you are clear on that. So good comment there, Ahmed. You got it right. So anyway, so this is one portion of the answer, but there is more. Now, let's talk about expirations, okay? Because we said there are two things we need to discuss here, which is number one, the strikes, okay? And number two, the expirations, okay? So I may come back to the strikes, okay? Even though I think I made my point. But now let's talk about expirations, okay? So when it comes to strikes, you have been told you want deltas of more than 80, okay? And when it comes to expiration, you have been told that you want expiration dates to be greater than 90 days, okay? That's what it is, okay? And I get it, okay? And to be honest, on paper and as a generic rule, it makes a lot of sense. Because if you were to look at an option chain, okay, and for example, let's start with 17th of July, which is 54 days, and you were to look at the 180, okay, and you were to look at, let's add theta, so you can see time to expiration and time decay. So let's move theta up next to delta, okay, so we can observe that easily. So what happens to the 180? The 180 loses 7 cents every day, okay? So what if instead of the 54, what if you were to use the 21 of August, which is, let's call it 90 delta? So the 180 loses 6 cents per day. So the further away the expiration date, the slower the rate of time decay. And therefore, you lose less money per day, and that certainly is an advantage. So as a rule of thumb, as a generic rule, planning on 90 days actually makes sense. Okay, but what happens if I come back to my analysis tab? Let me check again the 165 call, and now instead of July, we said August, 21 of August is the 90 days. So what happens if I move to 21 of August? Okay, so 21 of August, okay, it's now 21 of August 165 call is now costing me 2060. So instead of 1848, we have made the cost of the trade to be greater. Okay. You may say it's okay. Okay. Well, no, it's not, because even apart from that, the delta is not what I want. I got 75. So because we're using a longer time to expiration, I said it earlier when I pointed at the delta curve above, right? Because we're using a longer term to expiration, delta is less. So what happens? I need to use the 160. With the 160, now I get my 80 delta. Okay. So what happens? Now the cost of the trade is 2,442. And yes, you got a theta of 4.5. Okay. You got a theta of 4.5. That's good. Okay. But again, if you get to 195, okay, you would have an increase, a similar increase in this case, okay, going from 80 to 90 delta. So it's more or less about the same as before. If we were to be like very, very, very precise, it would be just a little less. Okay, if I'm not mistaken. Let's take a look. So if I look at the 195, the delta is 90.73, starting from 80, right? So 80 to 90. If instead of using the August, I go back to July and I go back to 165, okay, it goes from 80 to 93, which is what I said. So notice how you are missing on 3 deltas. Why? Because the shorter the time to expiration, the more the delta, given how in the money the option is, you will get more delta because you are closer to expiration. And on expiration, remember, no matter if you're in the money by $10 or you're in the money by 10 cents, no matter how much in the money you are, the option will be 100 delta on expiration. So as time passes, you gain delta. Okay, as long as you are in the money. If you are out of the money, it's the opposite. Okay, so in other words, you make the trade more expensive. You do have a delta benefit, but the delta benefit is now less because going to that 90-day mark, not only you're making the trade more expensive, but on top of that, you get less of the delta advantage. Then from a risk point of view, 2442 minus 2283, okay, that's the same kind of like we rounded up to 175. So the risk is about the same. Why? Because your starting delta is 80, which is about the same. So, and the distance from entry to stop is much less compared to the distance from entry to target. So then, it's kind of the same. Okay. But you can see how, there is a little bit of a penalty there when it comes to the price of the trade, the cost of the trade, as well as being less efficient with the delta increase. Okay, so now the only benefit you got at this point is less time decay, 4.5. Okay, where if I compare that with buying the 190, you got 6. Okay, you got 6. So you lose $1.50 more per day. Okay. But still, the benefits I mentioned earlier to me are worth it to pay $1.50 extra per day, right? Because now instead of being stopped out, you may be back in business after a few days. So I'm happy to pay $1.5 a day, a few days, in order to make a greater profit. I mean, think about it. If from 159, let's say I get a slippage and I get slipped and I lose 175, so that is $16 of slippage. So if I choose to not to use stops, it means I'm not going to have slippage. So if I have a 1.5 theta per day against me, so that allows me to be on the trade for 10 days and basically be equivalent during 10 days compared to the guy who is using stops, because the slippage effect of being stopped out with options, especially if you get stopped out at the open, is going to be even worse. So again, even though you got a worse theta, well, worse is on paper. In the real world, is not that worse. Okay. So now, what about Vega? Well, this option is giving you a Vega of 25. Okay, 25. Where if you do the 90 days out option, how much Vega you get? You got a Vega of 25. So in other words, it's kind of equivalent. Is that making sense? It's kind of equivalent at all levels. and you gain all those other benefits. Okay, so hopefully all of this, Ahmed, is helping you to understand why I position the use of the strikes and the expiration dates the way I do, even though it is absolutely not wrong to do it in other ways. And precisely option is one of those assets where I say it all the time, and I mean it, guys. Options give you options. Doing it this way, it's certainly valid. And, I mean, like, especially if you were to do this to an ETF where you do plan to use a stop, and the ETFs is the SPY and it's super liquid. And if you get stopped out, slippage is minor. And, you don't go long and short at the same time with an ETF because the ETF is already diversified. So you get my point. So then in situations like that, I would say, why not? But in other situations, I believe that, the way I lead you to do it has a greater set of advantages compared to what you describe in your email on other things that you have seen. Okay. And again, a great question, and I love that because asking this question hopefully brings now a bit more clarity, and with clarity comes confidence. Guess what? We just found another C word, and that helps you very much. Okay. Thank you, Ahmed. Thank you very much. And so now you know why I didn't answer this question in an email. Okay, I needed more time than that, isn't it? Cool. Wonderful. Okay, so second question of the day. Okay, this is from Paul, and this is the second question, and I don't see any additional question. Okay, so make sure if you have any question, you type it, because the moment we're done with questions, the session will be over, and I just want to make sure everybody got their opportunity to phrase their questions. Also, make sure you understand, even though this was an advanced question, make sure you understand this is a place for us to learn, and there is no silly question, basic question, whatever. Okay, make sure that if you have a question, you are totally entitled to type it. And if I have to say, let's talk about it on Tuesday, or I have to say, I plan to talk about it another day, or something like that, let me be the one to say it. Don't stop yourself from asking questions, no matter how basic you feel they are, because if you have a question, it needs to be answered. Okay, so don't be shy. Bottom line. Okay, very good. So Paul. So trade management, and we are talking about the too far, too fast. Okay, so let's do that. I'll have a little sip of water if that's okay. Okay, so okay, let me open a different workspace, because normally applying the too far, too fast type of trailing stop, I mean, this could be applied to all time frames and everything else. Okay, but normally we apply it to we do it very often on the short-term sessions that we do on the Tuesdays normally, and I'm pretty sure, Paul, that your question is coming from there. Okay, and if it's not the case, just let me know. Okay, so let's take a look. Okay, and by the way, I got a perfect picture here on the left to make a comment, which is the reason why we have such rule. Okay, because we have a flow chart. So here's the flow chart. Okay, the flow chart has a rule, which is the too far, too fast is optional. We also have a rule, which is the UFO trailing exit. That one is optional too. Okay, so we're going to talk about this one. Okay, but for us to understand the reason why we have this one, I briefly need to talk about that one. Okay, the UFO trailing exit, because again, if you have the opportunity to do that, then you don't do this. Okay, that's exactly what you do when the one on the right is not happening. Okay, so let's talk about that. Okay, so look at that. Let's say you purchased the S&P futures right there. Okay, well, first of all, congratulations. That would be an amazing trade. Okay, probably you took it right here, and you're just riding the whole climate, or a portion of it. Amazing. Okay, that would be very, very nice. But what's really, really nice of this is that if you started the trade like that, probably somewhere below, okay, and I don't know, because we will need to go back in time, which we're not going to do, somewhere below you would have a stop. Okay, and then after you enter the trade, this UFO form, so that would allow you to move your stop, trail your stop below the UFO, and then the market keeps moving, and another UFO forms, so that will allow you to trail the stop here, and then another UFO forms, and that will allow you to trail your stop below that UFO right there, and then another UFO forms, and then you will trail your stop right there. And let's say your final target was all the way here. Okay, let's say your final target was all the way there, and now the market reverses and hit your stop. So guess what? You are out at this price point. Okay, and probably you are very happy because of all of this. Okay, but the rationale behind you trailing stop below each of those UFOs is because being in an up climate, what's more likely to happen than not is that when price comes to the UFO, like it happened there, then it starts going up. Okay, so that's why you have the stop there, because if it doesn't go up and goes down, you are stopped out. Okay, and you basically missed on a little bit of profit, but you capitalize on most of the move, given the fact that we don't have a crystal ball. But if things happen the way they should, price comes to the UFO and then keeps going, so hopefully now you reach the final target and now you are even happier. So this is the technique that we call UFO trailing exit, okay, which is right there, okay, right here, I should say. And this, I think that one is super easy to understand and really common sense, I would say. So I believe that everybody's with me on that one. Okay. Now, so what is too far too fast? Well, too far too fast is for cases like this. Okay. So let's say you bought, okay, at this price point. Well, if you bought at this price point, okay, I'm still gonna say congratulations to you, because you bought at, like, let's say 49, and in no time, okay, it went from 49 to like 56. So you are making, like, 8 to 10 points in really no time. With one contract, that's close to $500. If you are using 2 contracts, 3 contracts, I would say that's a nice intraday trade. Why not, right? So congratulations. But having said that, the trade on the right is way riskier compared to the trade on the left. Why is it way riskier? Because if this market was to begin falling down, there is nothing to stop falling it down until it reaches this UFO. Where if that market falls down by a bit, the moment it comes to the UFO, is likely to go higher. Okay, and it's the same market. I'm just pretending where you're looking at different time frames. Okay, I'm just pretending that it's 2 different traders taking 2 different trades with 2 different markets, right? So the guy on the left is in a much safer position because of so many UFOs, where the guy on the right is in a very delicate situation, because, like, when you throw a ball against the wall, the harder you throw the ball against the wall, the harder it will bounce back against you. And we've seen that in the sessions live multiple times, actually, where we got a trade that went parabolic, and next thing you know, it went against us like that. Okay? So that is for what we have a rule. That's the reason why we have a rule, which we call too far, too fast. When the market moves too far, too fast, it may not be sustainable. So doing nothing, is not the best choice. Okay. So what do we do in such case? So what we do in such case, okay, I'm just going to pretend this is where you enter the trade, okay, and this is where you have a stop. Okay, I'm going to pretend that this is your stop. Okay, so in other words, the vertical distance between those 2 lines, okay, is your risk. And if I was to project your risk higher, okay, so that would be your 1-to-1 target, isn't it? And in this case, if you purchase here, in no time you reach the safety target, so you will be very happy in the trade, isn't it? And now you are moving towards your target. So let's pretend your final target is all the way up here. So you are on your way, it's looking good, but again, it's moving too far too fast. So it may go all the way against you and hit your stop. And again, if that happens, it's not too big as a deal, because since you reach the safety target first, you are not going to lose on the trade. You're going to break even. But at the same time, what a shame that you are making like 8 points and you may end up breaking even. That's a shame. Okay. So that is where the too far, too fast rule comes into place. When a market moves too far, too fast, surpasses the safety target without creating new UFOs on the way. So what's the rule and how do we apply it? Okay, so now I'm coming to your question, Paul. I wanted to explain the whole framework for the newer students or the ones of you watching this recorded, guys. So how do you deal with this? Well, what you do is that you take this vertical distance, okay, and you just keep projecting it, okay? You keep projecting, you know, visually speaking, you keep projecting the same vertical distance, you know, all the way until your final target, okay? All the way until the final target, okay? You have that one, and then the next one will now reach or surpass the final target, right? So you do a little bit of a projection, right? And what you do is, okay, so I bought there, okay? This is where I bought. If I ever reach my safety target, congratulations, I'm out of risk. That's great, okay? But now, if I get to double the distance, okay? So this is 1, this is 2. So if I get to double the distance of where my safety target was, I'm gonna take my original stop that was here, and I'm going to bring my stop, okay? I'm going to bring my stop to one position higher, okay? Which would be, in this case, there, okay? Now, this position higher will not be utilized, okay? So the rule is one position higher, but this position higher will not be utilized because that would produce, you know, basically this is your entry, okay? And again, the purpose of too far too fast is to lock in profits when you got parabolic moves. So even though the rule is every time you got one time the move the stop by 1, we will skip in the first move, we will skip the entry location, and we will move it directly to here, which is where the safety target was, okay? So if you get double the move to the safety target with no UFOs created, you move the stop in the first move to where the safety target was. From there, you wait until you reach the third time, 1, 2, and 3. So now we got 3 times the move. That was the 1-to-1 move. So now you would move the stop to where the 2-to-1 location was. Now let's say you reach this particular high on the chart, which is 1, 2, 3, and 4 times the 1-to-1 move. So now you would move the stop where the third location was, okay? And we never reached this one here, okay? We never reach it, okay? So because we never reach it, there is no stop to move. So the stop will be located right here, okay? This is where the stop would be located at right now, okay? And therefore, if that market now was to come down, so you would be taking out at this price, okay? So in other words, in this case, you would have locked it like, let's call it a 3-to-1 in the trade with half of the size, which is 1.5, plus the 1-to-1 you made with the other half of the size, which is 0.5. So you would have made a net profit of 2-to-1. You never reached the safety target, okay? But let's face it, if this market was to stop going up and start going down, there is nothing to stop it until it comes to the green UFO. So I rather exit here, okay? I rather exit here, okay, and be happy instead of not exiting at all, hoping for the best because the move is so strong that, you know, it's gonna go to the moon, right? It's too much hope into that opinion, okay? So, Paul, did this answer the question? Let me see. I have a question from Paul here. The reason I ask is I had a trade on Monday 18th on the Euro Swiss franc that should have in my favor, and I wasn't sure how to react. Very good. You are doing what you're supposed to do. You are practicing. Number one, your practice brings in questions, and this is where we get the answers. So you are doing the very right thing. Paul, I see. That makes sense. If a USO forms the level you have moved your stop to, would you bring it back down? No, you don't bring it down because the UFO could only form higher, not lower. Okay, so you cannot be in a situation. Okay, you cannot be in a situation where you have moved your stop here. Okay, because you reach the fourth place and you move the stop there, and suddenly a UFO appears somewhere around 20 52. That cannot happen. Okay, if any, what could happen is somewhere where the current price is, okay, somewhere where the current price is, okay, you may get now a UFO form here, okay, you may get a UFO form, and even though you haven't reached your location number 5, okay, because a UFO form, then your stop, which is currently located right here, would need to be moved below the UFO, like we explained earlier with that UFO. Okay, and you keep combining both rules. The rule on too far too fast with the rule on UFOs is whatever happened you act. Okay, whatever happened you act. Let me see. Good. So I guess that this should answer the question. Okay, but again, Paul, I'd love to have a confirmation from you that everything is clear now for you. And if there is anything else, please type it. Feel free to type it. Let me see other comments here. Very good. Thanks for that, Boyan, with the Discord group. Yep. Very good. Ahmed, Discord is to stay in touch as a group for all. Yep, absolutely. And Paul says, that's great. Thanks, Jose. Yes, very clear. Thanks. Wonderful. Perfect. I love it, guys. You know, when I see you guys putting time and effort into it, and you come back with very thorough questions, I just love it, guys. Congratulations. And that's what you have to do. The ones of you that you are joining the sessions and you have not been part of the sessions for too long, let's say you are new to trading and things like that, guys, this is the path. Okay, get prepared, get in the markets, get the tools, get a plan, practice, put effort into it. It's worth it. Okay, I mean, I love the markets. You know, I'm biased because I do love the markets, but it's really really worth it. But it's worth it only if you do it right. And do it right is, we have a great example with Paul today. Great level of practice, very thorough questions that come out of the practice and realizations, aha moments, and from there you get answers and you keep growing. Okay, good job. So guys, any remaining question? If you have no remaining question, please let me know how is the session going for today. If it's simply good, just say good. Okay, please don't stay silent, because I do need a final confirmation from you that all questions were answered, so we conclude the session. Okay, so if you have to type good, go ahead and type good. By the way, it was coming to my mind as I was saying, for the ones of you newer in the sessions, know that every month, guys, we conduct a 5-day class called Survival to Mastery Forex in Action. That one is not available any longer, but you have it again in June. Okay, so if you look at the June calendar, you know what, my team hasn't put it in there yet. Okay, but it will be there. So every month we are running the sessions. Okay, guys, and just keep that in mind, because for the ones of you that need help, you can just get access to the switches very, very quickly. You just come here to join. Well, by the way, let's say you have no time to wait for that date, or you have no time to be 5 days in live, connected live. So because the class I just pointed out is the live online. So if you have no time, the same class is available self-paced. So which means that you can just do it at your own pace, watching a collection of videos, 5-10 minutes each, sometimes 15 minutes videos. You just keep watching them at your own pace until you are a master of this domain. Okay. Let me see. Pansy, thank you, Jose. Good to see you, Pansy. You were very silent. Mark, good to see you. Good. Very good. All good, all good, all good. Charles, Paul, Ahmed, Roy, Basha, very good, everybody. Okay, so I think that we're going to conclude the session here, guys. And I just want to say, for all the friends in the States, wishing you guys to have a happy Memorial Weekend, and certainly for all those veterans, happy Memorial Day. and for all the friends living in Muslim countries as well, a huge celebration. So Eid Mubarak for you guys, with those beautiful celebrations as well, with family time and many other very relevant and very important things. So lots of celebrations this weekend, isn't it? You guys take care. I will see you soon. I will see you next week in the sessions during the week. And remember, in case you missed it at the beginning part of the session, let me go back quickly to the calendar. Super quick speed of the light. There is something special on Tuesday. Tuesday we have two sessions. Okay, for the ones of you that missed the beginning. So Tuesday we got two sessions, everybody. We have the normal sharpening session for short term, gray in color, but we also have the do's and the don'ts, which will not be conducted on the YouTube channel. It's at 7 p.m. New York time. You have to register for it. So just click on the link. Okay, the link will bring you here, and then you can click on the blue button to register now. So again, it's a free attendance, so it's for everybody. But again, you do have to register. It's not happening on the YouTube channel. Okay, so see you there, everybody. Keep up the good work. Enjoy the weekend. Enjoy your family time, and see you soon. Take care, everybody. Bye bye.